Every Wednesday, like clockwork, my husband Robert would slip out the door at dusk, his coat collar turned up against the chill, leaving me alone in our quiet Boston home with the echo of his footsteps fading down the hall. I tell myself it was just a late meeting at the office, but deep down I knew. Oh, I knew. The lipstick stains on his shirts, the faint perfume that wasn't mine clinging to his skin when he returned. Those were the daggers he twisted into my heart week after week. But I stayed silent, folding his laundry, stirring the soup on the stove, pretending our life was still the fairy tale we built after the war. Until one fateful Wednesday, when my sister Evelyn walked in unannounced and saw the truth I'd buried for decades. What happened next shattered our world, but it set me free. You won't believe how a simple cup of tea and a hidden letter changed everything. Stay with me, dear listener, because this story of betrayal and rebirth will make you question every "I love you" you've ever heard. I remember it all so clearly. Even now at 72, sitting here in my cozy armchair by the window, watching the snowflakes dance outside like forgotten promises. My name is Margaret, but everyone called me Maggie back then, when life seemed full of hope. Robert and I met in 1975, right after he came home from Vietnam. He was tall, with that easy smile that made my knees weak, and I was a young nurse in Massachusetts, general, patching up broken souls like his. We married in a little church in Quincy, with Evelyn as my maid of honor, her eyes sparkling with joy for us. "He's a keeper, sis," she'd whispered, hugging me tight. Little did we know, our days settled into a rhythm, the kind that feels safe at first. I'd wake before dawn, the cold wooden floor creaking under my bare feet, as I padded to the kitchen. The smell of fresh coffee brewing, bitter and strong, just how Robert liked it. That was my morning ritual. I'd pack his lunch, tuna salad on rye with a pickle on the side, folding the wax paper neatly, my hands rough from years of scrubbing hospital floors after I quit nursing to raise our family. We had 2 children, Emily and Jack, and I poured my soul into them. Mending scraped knees, baking apple pies that filled the house with cinnamon warmth, driving them to soccer practice in our old Ford station wagon. Robert worked long hours at the accounting firm, or so he said, bringing home the bacon while I kept the home fires burning. But Wednesdays, oh, those Wednesdays started innocently enough. About 10 years into our marriage, he'd say, "Client dinner, Maggie. Don't wait up." I'd nod, smiling through the unease, as I ironed his shirts, the steam rising like ghosts from the fabric. The house would grow silent after he left, the grandfather clock ticking like a heartbeat in the living room, its pendulum swinging back and forth, back and forth. I'd sit by the fire, knitting scarves for the kids, the wool soft and tangled in my fingers, wondering why his dinners always left him smelling of roses and regret. One night, I found a receipt in his pocket, dinner for 2 at that fancy Italian place downtown, wine and tiramisu. My heart stuttered, but I washed it away, tucking it deep like a dirty secret. As the years wore on, the betrayals piled up like autumn leaves in our backyard. I'd garden out there, my knees in the damp earth, pulling weeds that choked the roses I'd planted on our anniversary. The thorns pricked my skin, drawing tiny beads of blood, much like his words did. "You're imagining things, Maggie," he'd snap if I dared question him. After all I've done for this family, all he'd done, I was the one who sacrificed my career, my dreams of traveling to Europe to be the perfect wife. Flashbacks haunt me still, of tucking Emily into bed while Robert was working late, her little voice asking, "Where's Daddy?" Or the time Jack broke his arm falling from the treehouse, and I rushed him to the ER alone, Robert's phone going straight to voicemail. I gave him everything, my youth, my loyalty, my silence. In return, he gave me lies, wrapped in excuses. The emotional weight of it all pressed on me like a heavy quilt in summer. Nostalgia would creep in during quiet moments, remembering our honeymoon in Cape Cod, the ocean waves crashing like applause, his hand and mine warm and sure. But heartbreak followed, sharp as a knife. How could the man who vowed, "Till death do us part," shatter me so casually? Every Wednesday, I'd feel the loneliness seep in, cold as the draft under the door. I'd stare at our wedding photo on the mantel, the glass dusty, our smiles frozen in time. broken, like the china bowl that slipped from my hands one night when he came home late, reeking of her, whoever she was that week. The shards scattered across the tile, impossible to mend, just like us. It escalated slowly, insidiously. Dialogues I'd replay in my mind. "Maggie, you're too sensitive," he'd say, his voice dripping with false concern. Or, "If you trusted me, we wouldn't have problems." Gaslighting, they call it now, but back then, it was just my reality. He'd forget anniversaries, spend our savings on business trips, leaving me to scrimp on groceries, the fridge humming emptily. The kids grew up and moved away. Emily to California, Jack to New York, leaving the house echoing with absence. I felt invisible, a shadow in my own life. The pain built, layer by layer, until one Wednesday in 2015, when Evelyn dropped by unexpectedly. She lived just across town, a widow herself, always checking on me. I was folding laundry in the den, the scent of lavender detergent masking the ache in my chest, when she burst in, her coat dusted with snow. "Maggie, I saw him," she said, her voice trembling. "Downtown with that woman, arm in arm, laughing like he hasn't a care." The world tilted. I dropped the towel, my hand shaking. She pulled out a letter from her purse, one I'd written to her years ago, confessing my suspicions, but never sent. She'd found it in my drawer during a visit. "This ends now," she declared, her eyes fierce. That was the turning point. For the first time, I saw clearly through the fog of denial. My inner voice, long silenced, whispered, "Enough. You're worth more than this half-life." Empowerment came quietly, like dawn after a storm. With Evelyn's help, I gathered evidence, bank statements showing withdrawals for hotels, photos she'd snapped discreetly. I met with a lawyer in secret, the office smelling of leather and old books, signing papers that would reclaim my independence. I changed the locks on our home, the key turning with a satisfying click, symbolizing control returned. I removed his name from the joint accounts, the pen scratching like justice on paper. No dramatic scenes, just deliberate steps. When Robert came home that night, key fumbling uselessly, panic etched his face through the window. "What the hell, Maggie?" he yelled, pounding the door. "Let me in. This is my house, too." I opened it a crack, my voice steady for the first time in years. "Not anymore, Robert. I've known about Wednesdays for too long." He blustered, blame shifting. "You're crazy. After everything I've provided? You'll regret this, begging me back when you're alone." But I stood tall, dignity wrapping me like a warm shawl. "Goodbye, Robert. The papers are on the table." I closed the door softly, the lock clicking shut. In the resolution, peace washed over me like ocean waves on that long-ago honeymoon beach. I sold the house, bought a small cottage by the sea, where the sunrise paints the sky in pinks and golds each morning. Flowers bloom in my new garden, resilient and free. Evelyn visits often, our laughter filling the air. A necklace she gave me, silver waves, reminding me of enduring strength. I've rediscovered myself, painting watercolors, volunteering at the local shelter, my hands steady now. The lesson, dear ones? Betrayal cuts deep, but holding on to dignity mends the soul. Sacrifice without appreciation is a chain. Break it and find your peace. Let go and watch yourself bloom. Life's too short for Wednesdays that wound. Choose empowerment always.